Right now, as you watch this video, groundbreaking research is taking place to save Singapore's coral reefs. Singapore is one of the world's busiest ports, yet just past the shipping lanes is a haven of biodiversity known as St. John's Island. St. John's Island is known for its biodiversity both on land and in its coral reefs offshore. The Tropical Marine Science Institute is leading the way in trying to save Singapore's coral reefs from the extensive degradation that comes from human activity.
At the moment, my team is working on translocating the corals from Southern Shore to Lazarus as well as to Kusur, because Singapore is actually trying to reclaim and doing dredging in Southern Shore. The coral reef there are actually affected by the sedimentations, etc. So by translocating them to a better location, we help to improve their survivorship.
Despite these human interventions, Singapore's coral reefs are rich in biodiversity and thus deserving of our protection before they disappear. Coastal development, sedimentation, and climate change have reduced Singapore's coral reefs by over 50% in the last 50 years.
And when coral bleaching occurs and these corals die, animals that are dependent on these corals, they are affected as well.
Right.
Yeah, because corals serve as not only shelter for the animals, they also serve as food for the animals.
Coral bleaching is in part caused by the abnormally high sea surface temperatures, which are a result of global climate change.
Sedimentation has an impact on corals simply because they reduce the amount of sunlight that can penetrate through the water. Now, corals require sunlight simply because they live in association with a single-celled algae. The algae, millions of them, are within the tissues of the coral. And the algae needs to photosynthesize, so they require the sunlight. Sedimentation is a very direct effect of development. The research that we are doing would be applicable to any other parts of the world.
In October 2013, the TMSI began a project that aims to restore degraded coral reefs and also to create new reef communities in areas that have never had them before. This project involved the use of on-site nurseries to raise coral fragments to be used for reef restoration. Nursery frames were prepared on the boat before deployment. Once the frames were ready, a diver deployed them underwater. Once the nurseries were set up underwater, they were ready to have coral grown on them. Overall, this concept is known as coral gardening. So, how are the corals collected to be grown on these nursery frames? First of all, coral fragments have to be collected from a source reef. They can be obtained by picking up live broken pieces lying on the bottom or by fragmenting mature coral colonies. Fragmentation has to be done carefully to avoid any wastage of coral. Fragments of corals are brought up to the surface in baskets and kept in water during transportation to the nursery site. Once the fragments have been collected, they need to be placed on the coral nurseries. At the nursery, the fragments are attached firmly onto the mesh nets, which are on the nursery frames. The mesh nets help to prevent sediment accumulation, which could smother and kill the coral fragments. Coral nurseries are useful for enhancing the growth rate of coral fragments and also to increase the biodiversity of areas that are relatively barren. Once the coral has been growing on the nursery for quite a while, it becomes ready for transplantation. Bare boulders can be suitable for coral attachment and growth, and creation of a new reef can even be possible in an area of bare boulders. Degraded reefs, where coral has died, can also be used to attach these corals and create an area of rehabilitation. First, the area for coral reef attachment has to be cleaned to facilitate the attachment process. After cleaning, 2-part marine epoxy adhesive is mixed by a diver. The diver then uses this adhesive to attach the coral fragments carefully to either bare boulders or degraded reefs. After only 20 minutes, the underwater adhesive hardens and the coral is firmly attached and continues to grow on its own.
And we need to do this kind of research because moving forward, we have the impacts of climate change. And how do we try to instill greater resilience, more or less to prepare them for the full impacts of climate change?
I'm not sure whether you know, but our Singapore waters have recorded more than 200 over coral species.
Well, coral reefs have been described as being the oasis of the sea. As it is an ecosystem that has got a disproportionately high level of species. These habitats are limited in our country, and it is really important to try to manage and preserve them and prepare them for the full impacts of climate change. We can expand the limited area of habitats that we have left, and I think that is very important for us.
And beyond this research, we hope that you will do your part to help save Singapore's corals.